Weight training is shadow work. You heard that right. Strength training is Jungian shadow integration. Perhaps not in the formal sense of doing psychoanalysis while laying on a couch, but I think in a more practicable and actionable way that is definitely having profound benefits for men. Women too, but I think particularly for men, and I'll come back to that point. But having profound benefits all over the world. I might be the first mental health clinician to make this connection, so let me tell you what I'm talking about and lay out the case. But first, welcome back to the ACS Mental Health Counseling YouTube channel. I'm Adam, and I am an LMHC in New York State, specializing in men's issues, relationship coaching, and anxiety disorders. This channel and my practice broadly are centered around utilizing the insights of philosophy and social science to help people live healthier, happier, and more productive lives. So for background, I got into weightlifting around 3 or 4 years ago. My prior experience was really just the most casual of dabbling in middle school during a lunch period, and I really only did that because I had a lot of social anxiety, and it gave me an excuse not to have to much talk to anyone. I'm actually noticing too that the way the light's falling, I'm kind of half in shadow and half in the light. I promise I didn't plan that. It's just a happy accident, and it's very apropos. So since getting back into strength training consistently, I've loved it, and it has been one of the most single positive developments in my life and had a profound impact on my confidence. In many ways, that is the primary goal of Jungian shadow integration, or at the very least, the primary downstream benefit. So I started thinking to myself, why has this helped so much with my confidence? Because surely it isn't just an effect oriented around physical robustness or aesthetics, because it seems a lot more pervasive than that. And we'll come back to this. I had some insights. But first, let's start here. What is Jungian shadow integration? Why are we seeing a renewed interest in the idea? Let me fuel up here. Jungian theory posits that we all have darkness in us. You've probably noticed bitterness, insecurity, anger, malevolence. Doesn't matter who you are, you've got that lurking inside you. Think of the last time, for instance, that you found yourself stuck behind someone going 15 miles under the speed limit for an extended period of time after perhaps a long and stressful day when all you want to do is get home. How would you feel if that version of yourself was broadcast to the whole world? It probably wasn't your best moment because our emotions are primitive things and they tend to get away from us. So this is the stock example I give of how the unintegrated shadow might regularly rear its ugly head for an otherwise psychologically well-adjusted person. And if you just spent your entire day biting your tongue at every office frustration and indignity, do you think your road rage would be more or less amplified in this moment? More, of course, because you have larger concerns at work that you aren't addressing out of social nicety and financial necessity. This negative energy is then free-floating. It's untethered to any kind of concrete, approachable object. So it's being directed at a 90-year-old great-grandparent who is probably perfectly lovely and just doesn't see very well anymore. The depth psychologists called this phenomenon displacement. It's a pretty relatable example of the unintegrated shadow getting up to some nonsense. So Jungian depth psychology also posits that the dark, unintegrated, disavowed pieces of ourselves are almost certainly undermining our larger goals and values when they're kept at a distance. Jung would advocate acknowledging and understanding these pieces so that they can be integrated and put to good use. So that is, broadly speaking, the idea of shadow integration. And you're going to find better, more thorough explanations than I'm prepared to give you here on YouTube. You can either go directly to Jung's writing or someone like Jordan Peterson's, his lectures on the topic. So now on the topic of why are we seeing a renewed interest in Jungian ideas, I think I have an answer. It might be slightly controversial. We've been telling men that the deeper, darker parts of their psyches and emotional repertoires are inherently evil and toxic for quite a while now as a culture. And of course, aggression and bitterness and jealousy, of course, can be manifested in toxic ways. But disowning those pieces of self and suppressing them is not a recipe for obviating that concern. It's a recipe for producing more toxicity. As someone who works primarily with men, that's a large concern of mine, reducing the amount of toxicity in the world. The key, though, is recognition and productive utilization. So, you may be asking, how is this related to strength training and the benefits that I've been noticing? Strength training forces you right up against your weakness, quite literally, and your inadequacies. If you're taking hypertrophy seriously, you are pushing against your limits nearly every session. You are acknowledging that you're weaker than you would like to be with every failed rep. You're pulling aggression to the surface and directing it towards a productive end in every set. This has an effect, and a positive one, through the lens of depth psychology. There is catharsis, there is reality testing, there is growth inherent to the very physical act of lifting weights. You build confidence, you stop lying to yourself, and you move towards something better with every session. You also stop overreacting to the small stuff as you acknowledge your insecurities. That's a really big benefit too. You avoid what Freud called reaction formations, which is to say your insecurities being triggered in overly dramatic and unproductive ways. Now, this is just the depth psychology advantage of strength training. There are profound health benefits, aesthetic benefits, neurochemical, cognitive benefits. And I'm curious, what is your experience with strength training or any other kind of exercise been? Has it helped with your mental health? How so? Tell me about it in the comments. Now, of course, go talk to your doctor before beginning a new exercise regimen. But assuming you don't have any precluding conditions, it's one of the first things that I actually work on with new clients, developing a very humble and manageable movement routine. Such a routine, this is a key point too, will become your psychological home base when external chaos kicks up. And unfortunately, haven't you noticed, external chaos is bound to kick up from time to time. Also, make sure you're lifting safely with proper instruction, as it can obviously cause injury when done recklessly. But build it as a habit, even if it's initially boring, and increase the difficulty very slowly. Again, consult your doctor, seek out proper guidance, but broadly speaking, human beings were meant to move, and we don't do enough of it anymore. That's all I have for you today. I will see you in the next one.